Mr. Perkovich.
Here.
Ms. Small. Here. Mr. Tiedemann.
Here.
Mr. Varga.
Here.
Mr. Carter.
Here.
Mr. Haddon.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, April 13th, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich.
Yes.
Ms. Small. Yes. Mr. Tiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Under old business, the first three items remain on the table. We'll go right into new business, and it's a building addition, site alteration of an industrial building at 8229 Tyler Boulevard. Is that applicant here? Please come up, give us your name and address. Tell us what you want to do at 8229 Tyler Boulevard.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Chet Green. I'm one of the owners of North Coast Recycling. My wife's the other owner. We're a family business. We've been in business for 30 years. We've been at our current location for 28. The building sold a couple times and we're getting bigger, so we're looking for our own facility. We do document management, shredding, and recycling of post-industrial material, like mattress scrap, or if they're making little tykes, that type of scrap. Very clean organization. We actually sponsored the Western Reserve Safety Council to get that started in Solon. We're involved with Solon for a while. So we're very employee safety. Never had a lost time accident in almost 30 years. So what we're looking to do, since I'm getting older, my daughter's our office manager, my son is our warehouse manager. So we're looking to get them set up so when I bow out, they have control of their own future. That's why we're looking at this building. We're going to do some major improvements to it. We're at about $800,000. The new roof alone is $480,000. We're painting the building, we're painting the doors, we're landscaping, we're maintaining the aesthetics of the whole property. It'll be improved greatly. New offices we'll be putting in and taking all the materials off the roof. So it'll be a flat roof, as you can see in the pictures. There's all types of smokestacks and air vents and so on. What else can I tell you? We are going to paint the building the colors that the city prefers. We were just going to paint them blue like they were now, but we changed that, and you can see in your folder that they're more earth tones. And I hope that that's acceptable instead of the blue. We're changing the landscaping. We're shortening up the beds, mulching them and planting, hopefully improved vegetation. We've got prices on replacing the parking lot, but the smallest area is over $100,000. So right now we look to patch, seal coat, and stripe the parking lot. And then the additional parking lot on the east side, which is there, we don't have any plans for that yet, but we are going to have that repaired also. The landscape company that we hired, the first initial work done there is going to be $7,000 because they're going to pull out all the parking curbs. They're going to clean that ditch that you see there where the water runs from across the street, right there. It's pretty ratty right now. We're going to clean it up so the water flows better, and we're looking to put ivy on the sides. And then on the building in the far back, you can see that's what's going to be painted. We just added all the garage doors, the 5 garage doors down there are going to be painted also. We add that to it. The return unit on the side, the air filtration unit, that is already disconnected, so we just have to disconnect the bolts and scrap it. We haven't decided yet where to put our refuge containers, but they will be probably on the other side of that shelter, and we will put a fence up for that, so you can't see them. We're a very clean facility. We have a special needs come in 3 days a week. They sweep 75% of workers' comp cases are triplet falls. So we keep our floors clean, spotless. We tell our customers that if we know you're coming, we could always get it ready. We invite them to come in, sign in, and do a walkthrough at their convenience. Because you can always get ready if you know they're coming. This way they can just walk right in. As you'll see at the color that we chose, the blue line that goes all the way around the building will be the same color as the building in the back. Is that correct? Okay, yeah. The lighter one, cork wedge, will be the border around where you see the blue hugging the building.
The Homestead Brown is going to be the trim, or the blue stripe on the front of the building,
And the cork wedge,
is going to be
the whole building?
whole back of the
Okay.
building.
Can you repeat that, Mr. Green, just
Yeah.
because she's not on the mic?
Pardon me?
Could you repeat what she said, please?
Oh, okay. The cork wedge is going to be where all the blue is in the building, and the Homestead Brown will be the trim in the building. That trim. And all the stacks will be gone. So we have considerable improvements for the building. We're also looking at upgrading the sprinkler system. That is not planned to be done immediately. It's $158,000 to upgrade, put a pump on the sprinkler system. But for now, we're rated at 12 feet, so that'll be all right for us until we get in and get settled, for our storage boxes. And then we'll look at doing financing with our bank and getting the extra pump put in. So then we'll have a 23-foot height variance that we can stack that high. It has to stay 1.5 feet from the ceiling. And that is Bassett Sprinkler Company, which we hired to do this work. All the posts are gonna be repainted. Our signage isn't gonna be on the front of the building. There's already a little arcade in the front yard. We're just gonna replace the slides and put our logo in there. I think I covered everything that.
All right, thanks. You've read the staff report, and you're okay with all the conditions? 17 conditions?
Yes.
Kathy, anything from the administration?
No, just to remind the applicant, with all the landscaping to be done, we're just looking for a landscape plan that you actually submit. We did make some recommendations. Our landscape architect put out there the ditch, which is pretty massive, as you can see. There's Phragmite in the ditch, and I think he wants to put in this ivy, which is fine. It's just that to get the Phragmite out there, he just reminded that it's a pretty invasive species, and it's gonna take a few treatments to get it out, but it's great to get it out if you can.
Well, we're hoping the English ivy will overtake the growth that's there, because we don't want to strip it and then have erosion from the soil when it rains. So we're hoping that, because it is aggressive, but the English ivy, it has a broad relief, and we're hoping that it will just crowd out all the other vegetation. Our landscaping will be done once a week, cut, trimmed, and blown. The front and back, all sides, everything that has grass in it, all the grass will be out of the parking lot, up against the parking curbs, because they're gonna be pulled out and replaced. We will seal off the parking lot at the far side that we're not using, because as you can see, there's people parking their semis on it now. And we don't want that. There's no telling what they could spill or tank opens. The other day I was there and there was a tanker parked in there, so we don't want to have any responsibility for that. Getting new gutters in some of the building. They're rusting through. This building's been empty for in 3 years, to my knowledge. And it needs some tender repair.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Crock?
just wondering, how many people do you plan to employ when you're fully in the building?
Right now, we have 12 people. We can't find, we're understaffed, majorly understaffed. We'd be looking at, our regular staff 3 years ago was 19 to 21.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tiedemann?
When you say recycling, are we doing any consumer recycling or is this strictly
No
business?
post-consumer.
Okay, and then how does recycling get to you? How do those,
We pick it up, we have 24-foot box trucks.
okay,
We pick it up, bring it to our facility, process it, get it ready for shipping. We ship in 40,000 pound increments. Like we'll get your breather hoses for under your car hood. They're black. As polypropylene, 20% talcum. Well, we'll get that from the manufacturer. If for some reason there's a blemish in it or didn't meet their specs, we bring it back, bail it, and look for a market. We handle nothing hazardous. We handle no liquids whatsoever.
I have another question. On the map that we got, or this description up at the top, it says truck parking during the day from 8 to 5. So are those the trucks that you
Our
send out to the
trucks.
customers?
Mhm.
Okay.
And they have North Coast Shredding, North Coast Record Center on them. No one else's vehicles. We're NATE certified, which is the highest accreditation in the country for document destruction. And they have very, very strict guidelines. We have to keep our video for a year. We have to fingerprint all our employees, background checks, state background checks. When they come and audit us, we have to have enough visitor badges that match our law of visitors. We have to have all our reports, we have to check our alarm system once a month. It's pretty stringent, it costs us about $10,000 a year to stay NATE certified. And we have to, because like Cardinal's one of our customers, they insist on being NATE certified. Job and Family in Pansville is one of our customers. They have to follow IRS specifications for everything they handle. We have to put the paper into the shredder a certain way. They sit there in the foyer and watch us do it. That's the requirements.
That's it, thank you.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Parker?
This is really a question back to the city. That drainage way, does it, I know it's completely on his property where it runs Jason's part of it. Is there any other oversight of this drainage way that needs to be, anyone else have any jurisdiction over it, or in terms of keeping it open, or any improvements that are made? Does it have to be reviewed by somebody else?
I mean, once we get an updated plan and in terms of the landscaping, we'll take a look at it again. It has to be kept open for flow. It runs south to north, so.
But it would be under the jurisdiction probably of just the city? Okay, that's fine. And I saw that the fire marshal had no comments, even, they're putting in a fire suppression system.
They've already gone and inspected it.
They've already.
And they're already in
Yeah,
conversation.
it said no comments, but I just wanted to make sure that the fire marshal was on.
We did a walkthrough, fire marshal,
Great.
before we announced that.
That's good. Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve with the 17 proposed conditions.
Second?
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small? Yes. Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes,
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Hadden?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're all set.
Very much.
We have code amendment as referred to the Municipal Planning Commission by City Council under resolution number 23-R.-106. Kathy, want to tell us a little bit about this?
I can go into the items of the memo, or Mr. Zeman can talk about how that was handed down, however you want to approach it. What specifically did you want to go over?
Joe, do you have anything?
Council didn't have any discussions at its public meeting where this resolution was enacted and passed down. My understanding is it's just sort of, the city's always fielding questions from potential developers relative to what uses, could potentially go where. And obviously a lot of those inquiries are not consistent with the current zoning. So, the idea of perhaps a lot of fuel service slash EV stations in the M1 district has come up. And so the council's looking for code guidance from the commission.
Thanks, Kathy. I understand you did some, looked at some other communities. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, in just evaluating the gas stations, or as we call them, service stations in our code, did do a comparison. Took a look at, first off, it was about 14 communities that evaluated in Lake County alone. I would say the majority of them, the gas stations or service fuel stations, were restricted to business districts. There were 2 cities that did have an allowance for them in an industrial zone, but the majority were in a general business district, or in like our case, an interchange service district. Some call them a motor service district, very specific. Outside of Lake County, the trends were very consistent with what we found in Lake County. I looked at some of the bigger communities comparable in population to ours, and Euclid, Lakewood, Beechwood, Strongsville, North Royalton, Greene, Macedonia. And again, I would say I did find a couple that did allow for it in the industrial, but the majority did not allow for it in their industrial zones, and it was restricted to their general business zones. We did provide a map that kind of gives you a layout of where the current gas stations are located. There are, in fact, 19 gas stations in the city. We do get that comment a lot that there aren't enough gas stations in the city, but there are 19 total, and you can see where they're at. And as you can see, they're in mostly the B2 zones. Some of them are in the B3 interchange service district. And I'd note that in the B2, they're conditionally permitted, and in the B3, they are permitted by right. I guess I would also point out the one concern that the administration has primarily is with the way traditional retail is permitted in the M1 district. If you were to allow this use, or consider allowing this use, we obviously have a very specific standard for retail and industrial zones. It's only limited as an accessory use. And when you look at a gas station in today, modern day gas stations, they all have a convenience store component, which I don't know that they would be in compliance with the 15% gross receipts and the 25% floor area, which is hard to kind of quantify the open layout of a gas station, but it would seem that would not be in compliance. So there's somewhat of a conflict there, which would need to be, I think, addressed in some way, shape, or form if that were to move forward. And then just the last comment is I think the administration always likes to maintain as much of the manufacturing zone properties as they can for just that manufacturing, whenever possible. Obviously, if this were to move forward, it opens up the potential for a change in the loss of that opportunity. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Carter?
In your opinion, Kathy, is there a need, you're saying there's a need for more gas stations in
I can't say that there's a need for it. I think it depends on who you talk to. I think that we've had a lot of inquiries. And so there are folks that would like to put gas stations. Some people ask for gas stations in areas that it's already permitted. So it's just a matter of where you want to permit them.
Because I can think of at least 2, maybe 3 areas where there's a gas station that's not being used as a gas station. Not it's either vacant or. So I was thinking if there's a demand for gas stations, I think those areas would be developed first. My only thought about this is that it kind of appears, and there's the concept of the phrase of spot zoning. In my mind, this is kind of where you take an established zoning area and then you take a spot and you make it something different. And it seems to not be a consistent way of using zoning to control what the development is, because you could end up with that anywhere, right? And I reiterate, or I agree with you, the concept that M1's zoning is more beneficial to the city than this general business zoning from Pioneer Road and long-term developments. I personally don't understand why new gas stations are required, because cars are becoming more and more electric, so that's all.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Cocker.
So as I understand it right now, if you wanted to put, if I wanted to put a service station on M1 piece of property, I cannot do that unless I rezone that piece of property, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So, and during the process of rezoning, something from an M1 to something that would allow a service station, that would ultimately, during the rezoning process, would have to go before the voters.
Correct.
Correct, okay. So, in essence, if we make this change, we are taking the voice away from the city of Mentor voters to make this decision if they wanted to make this decision. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't put a service station someplace where there's zoning of M1 right now. I mean, I'm sure there are many places that, hey, a service station would be a perfect spot, but it's already zoned M1. I can think of a few spots myself, but I think this is more of a case where you want to take it on a case-by-case basis and have the citizens of Mentor decide whether they want that particular location to allow a service station. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Question, I think that maybe Kathy can expand on this a little bit more, but that, from that point of view where the retail receipts and the floor space, if this were to go forward, that language would need to be sort of interpreted. Would that come back to us, for example, as a CUP to say, well, that their plan is that they need 45%? Is that how that would sort of flesh out probably?
Well, maybe Mr. Zeman can, we talked about this a little bit. It's a tough one to analyze, and we probably have to dig deeper on that to really make a determination. But if it's not consistent with what's in the code under 116103, then we do have a problem, and it would need to be somehow adjusted specific to a gas station. And then again, I don't know if Joe wants to add anything to that.
The code doesn't differentiate, except with a few minor exceptions of various retail uses. Pet shops being a species of retail use that's specifically called out in our code. So it bunches, so there's no such thing in the code as, neighborhood convenience retail, for example, as a specifically permitted or conditionally permitted use. Grocery store, you don't see any of that in the code, which you may see in other codes. So yes, I think to Ms. Mitchell's point, you do see a lot of service stations with a retail component of varying sizes. Often it's just convenience foods, beverages, beer, perhaps some wine. They've also got, many of them, their models are, as you know, for food service. Now, restaurants are conditionally permitted use currently in the M1, so in theory, you could potentially, if the code change happened, CUP could be granted for a service station, another CUP granted for some type of a restaurant use, whatever that would look like. And then the question is, in terms of their overall revenue, is 15% or more of it attributable to traditional retail sales? Anecdotally, we often hear that that's sort of the it's the non-vehicle fuel sales that sort of make or break these operations. Our code doesn't look at what the margins are. Our code just looks at gross revenues. So really don't know what to make of it. It would really have to be to a specific operator to make the case that they could meet that threshold. And only they know if somebody drives in there and they spend $30 to $40 for a tank of gas, and they walk into the store and they buy a cup of coffee or maybe something else. How those percentages work out, because that's really the analysis that would have to take place. It's hard to believe if the place is modest, that the percentage of their retail sales would be that much in excess of their vehicle fuel sales, but once you have real world data, it's hard to tell on that one. So I would think it'd have to be determined on a case by case basis. Now the other option, which is sort of alluded to, is then starting to get into more significant changes to the M1 that may allow for a neighborhood convenience retail use, as accessory to a permitted vehicle fuel sales station. So you'd have to potentially be looking at some further code amendments if some more liberal allowance were considered for that specific type of retail sales.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else? I'm on board with Mr. Crocker. It's hard to, like you said, take the vote away from the people. Right now, they vote on it and they get to decide on a case-by-case basis. And it's not that I don't think a gas station could work in the M1 district. It's the process for me that I have problem wrapping my head around. So that's kind of where I stand. So, with that, I'll entertain a motion. And this we're just recommending, right? I mean, this is a recommendation. Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Perkovich?
No.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
No.
Mr. Crocker?
No.
Mr. Haddon?
No.
Mr. Cook?
No. And Kathy, you had something as well, if I remember? Something else?
Director's report,
Yes.
Separate, yes. Just two small items, we just wanted to make the commission aware. This is a good thing, the last meeting we had Menards here, and just wanted to show you that they submitted their updated rendering, and they wanted our blessing that they can move forward with the building permit, and they changed the colors. It's tan with the green roof, which is what we asked for. So just wanted to show you that they did submit, and they're moving in that direction, because he didn't have a definitive answer of how he was gonna go, so.
Right.
That was number one. The second item that we wanted to bring to your attention is there is a proposal that is under review. Burgess and Nyepel submitted it on behalf of the city. It's an internal review, so this is why we're bringing it to you, just to let you know that it is going on, in case you wonder. That the existing accessory structure that's at Wildwood, it's a garage. It's very old, it's very tired, and it needs to come down. And they need an updated, improved facility, and so that's what this is. It's just over 3,000 square feet. I believe this is from a 3D printer. But it does match the design of Wildwood, the main structure, the main house. So we just wanted you to be aware of it. It is being reviewed internally. We don't foresee any issues. It meets setbacks and so forth. So it's just more about keeping you in the loop of what's going on. So I don't know if you have any other questions on that.
No rooftop units, right?
No rooftop units.
Beat you to it.
Where's the mechanical system? No, I think that's a great idea. It'll fit with the existing building. It's always been a kind of a goofy parking lot. There used to be a house there.
Yeah,
That's
years
gone.
ago, a
Right.
house was there, yeah.
And that certainly will, you don't really see that much from the road, I think.
Right, because there is a lot of tree cover on the road, but
There's
it
an
is. once
elevation
you-
difference too.
Right,
Yeah,
but when you come in, it's
that's
gonna
a
be
great-
right on the right.
That's
so.
a great approach, I think.
That's it, that's all we have.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.